cut short, and when I realized it, well, too late. So I am going to pick up where it cut off. I went back and re-listened just to make sure that I could find the spot. We are still in chapter 6, and it is almost finished, so this may be like a 5-minute video, if that. All right. Connected with the teaching on good works, there is the requirement of the Church of Rome that its members should confess their sins to a priest and then ask for absolution from him. In this, the Roman priest takes the place that rightly belongs to God. The awful effects of the confessional will be examined later when we look at the Jesuits. However, we will now briefly look at the Babylonian origin of these things. Hislop, in surmising a number of examples taken from the mystery, state in regard to justification, the Chaldean doctrine was that it was by works and merits of men themselves that they must be justified and accepted of God. Hislop goes on to explain that the Babylonian doctrine on justification was also illustrated by the scales of justice supposedly committed to the Egyptian god Anubis. Good and bad deeds of the deceased were weighed up separately, and a distinct record made of each, so that when both were summed up, the balance struck. Judgment was pronounced accordingly. This found its way into legends of the Church of Rome. Instead of the scales of Anubis, it was the scales of Saint Michael, the archangel, that weighed up the balance of merits and demerits of the departed. When one considers the Babylonian belief in the scales of justice at death, the final handwriting of the wall is seen. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. Daniel chapter 5, verse 27. The meaning of the Chaldee word tekel is weighed in English, and this showed to Belshazzar his impending doom. It is evident that the priests of Anubis also had a significant role to play. They took confessions from devotees, and in the course of the confessional, they claimed that they could anticipate the operation of the scales of Anubis. These priests would perform a rehearsal of the dreaded weighing of good and bad deeds in front of penitents. Hislop says of this: the priest sat in judgment on the good deeds and bad deeds of his penitents, and as his power and influence were founded to a large extent on the merit principle of slavish dread, he took care that the scale should generally turn in the wrong direction, that they might be more subservient to his will in casting in a due amount of good works into the opposite scale. As he was the grand judge of what these works should be, it was his interest to appoint what should be most for the selfish aggrandizement of himself or the glory of his order, and yet so to weigh and counterweigh merits and demerits that there should always be left a large balance to be settled, not only by the man himself, but by his heirs. The priests of the Church of Rome have copied these practices of the pagan priests of Anubis in the confessional. Purgatory. At death, the members of the Church of Rome are not taught that they will go to heaven, but they will go to purgatory. The Church of Rome teaches purgatory is a place where souls suffer for a time after death on account of their sins. Furthermore, it is taught we are in communion with the souls in purgatory by helping them with our prayers and good works. It is a place where souls are supposedly purified by fire after death. The time spent in purgatory is also supposedly shorter if prayers for the dead are offered. However, these prayers must be performed through the priest, who in return requires special payments for the deceased person's relatives, from the deceased person's relatives. Thus, many priests of the Church of Rome have, like the Pharisees, devoured widows' houses. Matthew chapter 23, verse 14. The most vile examples are given by Chinaquai. These include the pitiless demand for money by the local priest from Chinaquai's mother, following his father's death, which almost left them destitute. Such practices are shown by Islam to originate from Babylonian religions, of which he gives various examples from around the ancient world. Readers will quickly realize the connection of purgatory with the fire worship surrounding Nimrod, which we have described in previous chapters. The fires of Baal and Moloch were supposed to purify, and a form of purgatory was widely believed by the pagan Romans. Furthermore, one of the most important names given to the sun god, Sun, small g, god, Nimrod, is Tammuz, which is Chaldee for perfecting fire. It is a most solemn deception of the devil to believe that fire will purify after death. The Bible shows the place of fire to be hell. For example, Mark 9:43, Jude 7, Revelation 20:10, which does not purify, but eternally burns and punishes the wicked. The God of Israel is not a perfecting fire, but a consuming fire. Hebrews 12:29. What a mercy it is for believers in Jesus Christ to know that they are cleansed by his blood shed upon the cross at Calvary. When the dying, repentant thief said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. Jesus replied, Verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. Luke 23:42 through 43. There was no purgatory, only heaven. And that, my brothers and sisters, is the end of chapter 6. No groundhog. I think he went to bed. All right. Keep your eyes on Jesus, brothers and sisters. Your nose in the book, which is the Word of God. And embed the Word of God upon the tablets of your hearts, so you and I will not sin against God or be deceived. Till next time, I love you all so very much. Bye-bye.